Hello, today we're looking at the new AXIO 1 from IK Multimedia. This is a budget interface with a single input. Ordinarily not something I'd be especially interested in. However, this is a very guitar-centric interface, and there are two really nice things that it does that my much more upmarket Focusrite Claret will not do, which means that for the first time in my life, I am switching between two interfaces while I'm working. So this little demo coming up is recorded entirely through the AXIO 1. Acoustic guitars through the mic preamp. One is a condenser mic, one is an SM7. And you'll see me using on the guitar, electric guitar tracks, the special features that make this quite an interesting little interface. It might not be entirely clear what's going on towards the end of the video, but I will explain it all. I'm quickly going to go through some of the specs before looking at why this might be interesting to you if you're a recording guitarist or bass player. It's got a single combi jack on the front, which will take an XLR or a jack cable. It's got a headphone out, and on the back we've got two line outs for your speakers. There's also a pair of foot switch inputs and MIDI inputs. Now you can connect momentary or latching foot switch or expression pedals to these, and if you already have an iRig Stomp or something similar, I think you can connect that here, with the MIDI. Now the two really interesting features are these: the Z-tone knob and the amp out. Now both of these features are on the older, larger AXIO units, but this is substantially less expensive. It's about $150. The Z-tone knob basically gives you control over the input impedance when you plug in a guitar. So you turn it all the way to sharp, gives you 1 mega ohm, which is kind of what a guitar amp usually shows your guitar pickups, and you get a strong, bright signal. Turn it all the way to bold, gives you only about 2K, which on the input, which, as you will hear, drastically affects the tone and the output. It behaves quite differently with different guitars and the volume knobs, and I have to say I absolutely love it. Using the all the way bold setting really gives you like a kind of old-fashioned, kind of low gain, sort of kind of crappy vintage tones, which I like. But you can set it somewhere in the middle to just slightly warm up take the edge off a guitar sound, which I find really useful, particularly when using plugins, to get a bit more of a, I don't want to say analog, but a slightly warmer, rough around the edges sort of character to your guitar or bass recording. There are two toggle switches, passive and active, which are obviously for active and passive guitar pickups or bass pickups, which is cool. And then there's JFET and Pure. To me, the JFET is a touch brighter, touch louder, maybe. And the Pure is relative to JFET, just a little bit flatter, maybe a little bit pushed in the mids. It's quite subtle, but it is there depending on the pickups. Now have a listen. I'm going to just sort of show you what these knobs kind of actually sound like in use with a couple of guitars. Interesting, right? Really quite a wide range of sounds available. The microphone preamp, absolutely fine, decent, fine with condenser mics. If you're using it with a dynamic mic like an SM7, something with a low output, you are going to need to turn the gain all of the way up or most of the way up. Don't expect zero noise. It's not going to perform like a high-end preamp. Of course, it's not at this price. I compared it to the Claret. It's slightly noisier, but not a different league. But it's perfectly usable for anything other than like whispery vocals, and no budget interface preamp is going to give you clean gain on an SM7 for whispery type vocals. But it's perfectly usable, certainly on condenser microphones, no problem at all, and any kind of guitar recording, except the lightest fingerstyle stuff if you're not using a condenser microphone. So the other knobs we've got here are headphone level. These are all just for monitoring. Headphone level, master volume, that's your speaker outs. And then we've got the monitor, kind of a blend knob, which controls, which gives you a blend between the direct signal that you're from the input and what you're getting from your DAW. So you can do some zero latency monitoring if you need. Now, the other cool feature is this amp out jack. This is the first time IK have put it in a box this size. It was in their previous interfaces, which are $300-400. This is about $150. Now, if you're familiar with reamping, you'll understand why this is helpful. But if not, let me explain. So the world of electric guitar signal paths and the world of studio gear signal paths are a bit different. If you've tried to run a line out of your interface into a guitar amp, you'll understand this. Often, not always, but usually you will run into problems with noise, the level won't be quite right, there'll be maybe impedance issues. They're obviously all interrelated, and usually you will need to use something like a reamp box. This gives you a guitar-friendly signal that you can connect directly to the front of an amp or into your pedal board without needing a reamp box like a Radial or a Little Labs or something like that. So what you do is you record a DI of your guitar part. You'd probably use a plugin to give you like an approximation of the guitar sound. And then later you can play that DI recording into your guitar amp, get the perfect tone, record it back in through the mic preamp, in real time, just play it through it. You can do this more than once, so you can have the same part played through a couple of different amps or with different settings. You might want to blend the plugin with an amp. You might want to manipulate the amp or effects in real time. There's quite a few creative options that you can get into. At the end of the demo there, I used the amp out to send a guitar track out of Logic into my Way Huge SuperPuss delay, into the input and then back into the output. I did it twice and messed around with the delay knobs, panned one hard left, one hard right, so you get this kind of weird, unique, random stereo delay. I wouldn't normally bother doing something like this. I don't even own a reamping box. I'm quite lazy. But having this amp out meant that that's just a unbalanced cable, just a little patch cable, straight into the pedal, into the input, capture it in Logic. Super easy, no noise, and it opens up quite a lot of creative possibilities. Another potential use of reamping might be if you're recording your amp in the same room as you, which is pretty common, but your amp isn't very loud and the microphone is picking up the sound of the strings and the plectrum. If you capture your DI first and then reamp that, you'll get a cleaner recording without the guitar actually being played in the room at the same time. Now, there are a few compromises with this interface which you might expect at the price. Having only one input means that you can't record your amp at the same time as capturing a DI, which is a shame. If you need both at the same time, you're going to have to look at one of the older Axe.io units. That's just the way this is. The headphone amp is decent, not amazing. It powers my DT770s, the 250 ohm ones, no problem. There's enough volume. Compared to the Claret headphone amps, it's not as loud and as punchy, but there's plenty of volume available. I don't think it's a problem. It's adequate. You're not going to get a top quality headphone amp at this price, but it gets the job done. The way I use this is it's connected to my system, and I just switch Logic over to it when I need it, and then switch back to my normal interface for mixing and so on. The other issue you may have seen in the demo is that it's quite possible to clip this on the input, even with the input gain at minimum. There's no pad to drop it down, so if you're using humbuckers and you're playing really, really hard, you can clip it. To me, this doesn't create too much of an issue because with any kind of overdrive, you're not going to hear it. So I'm not too fussed about that. And it's only when you absolutely hammer it, like really give it some welly, that you'll get it to clip. So it's not a deal breaker for me at all. If you do need to drop the level down for like a keyboard or something, you can just use the active passive switch, stick it into active mode, and that will drop it. You can do that with passive pickups as well, but it does have quite an effect on the tone. On the flip side, it's incredibly lightweight and portable. I like the design of it, the desktop design, and it's completely bus powered, which means laptop and this, you're good to go. Very mobile. It comes with Amplitube SE and Tonex SE, which is a great start. There's some good sounds in there. Obviously, IK are hoping to get you into their ecosystem and upgrade you to the more comprehensive versions of those plugins. To be honest, it's not a bad plan because Amplitube and Tonex are rather good, in my opinion. So yeah, the Z-Tone knob is money. And for me, the amp out makes sending a mono signal out of your door to go through pedals or an amp really easy, which to me seems like quite a creative advantage. So I'll be keeping it. I will be running it alongside the Claret for any occasions where I'm recording DI guitar, which is increasing these days, or for any reamping. It's small enough to just have around, and it's light enough to be mobile, so perfect. Highly recommended. If you'd like to buy one, there is a link below. You can use that and helps out the channel. So yeah, I hope this is useful. Bye.